Thank you, Ron. And again, I want to thank the NICB. We couldn't have done this without their assistance and the assistance of the insurance companies with the administrative support they provided in being able to stage our investigation in a manner that looked like these accidents were occurring and the claims were being paid. So it really couldn't have been done without their assistance, and certainly the assistance of the state attorney's office. I think we've made available for your benefit one of the undercover detectives who actually was involved in the investigation. Obviously, he still is working undercover, and would ask that you obviously guard his identity if you want to talk to him. But he'll be available, I think, at the conclusion here for you to speak to him. And with that, does anybody have any specific questions? Yes, Josh.
How you can look at a vehicle and determine that it was a staged accident? Obviously, you had video in the one instance, but in other instances, how can you look at a vehicle and determine that that was actually staged as opposed to an actual accident?
Well, that particular video, even though it typifies a typical staged accident, it's not typical in that there actually was a substantial amount of damage there, and that was the reason for them exiting the vehicle. Obviously, they didn't want to get anybody getting hurt. But what you'll find typically in these staged accidents is either no damage or superficial damage on the cars. What we found through the undercover detectives who would work with these coordinators at the clinics is they would be briefed. It would almost be like a pre-operation brief on how exactly to conduct this and how to stage the vehicles, how to, where to be at, and it would be literally like a movie production almost. And typically they would involve very, very low speed or impacts, and typically involve what's known as a blue form. Doesn't require on private property, for example, parking lots, that type of thing, that don't require law enforcement, a full investigation, a traffic crash report. So there's a pattern, obviously, and with the people, and a lot of it boiled down to the experience of these deputies. They saw something just wasn't right, and more often than not, they were able to get confessions from the participants, because these are low-level participants. They're being paid a couple $100 maybe to be involved in this, and the deputies, through their investigative skills and interview skills, were able to get, quick confessions from the individuals that, yeah, we were paid X amount of dollars to do this. And so, yes.
One of the words that was used to describe this entire operation was sleazy. Is that exactly what this element has been like throughout the investigation?
Absolutely. These so-called clinics are nothing more than a mill for fraud and theft. What you find is there really is no identification at the businesses themselves. The people who go there are sent there. There's no advertising. These were staffed by a massage therapist. That's it. And they would pre-sign these medical forms, maybe a half a dozen to a dozen forms ahead of time, leaving the dates and information blank, and they would never go back to the clinic. They would get their initial payment to go to the clinic, sign their name to the blank forms, get paid, and they're done. And the clinics would submit the claim forms until such time they reached the $10,000 PIP limit. Then they'd move on to the next one.
How much do these individuals get paid generally to participate
based on the interviews we've conducted, or the deputies conducted, the typical participant would get somewhere around $400, and the recruiter who would go out and find the participants might get anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 per crash.
How many crashes just in the 8-month period of this investigation?
We investigated 35, and that's just what we investigated. Obviously, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We've identified approximately 168 of these type of clinics in Hillsborough County. So you can imagine we focused on 4. So there's still 160 out there that hopefully after today, every time they see a participant come in through their doors, they're going to wonder whether or not that is an undercover detective, because this isn't going to stop today.
Would you get the same participants coming back time and time again with different accidents?
I couldn't answer that, but
sometimes.
Occasionally, I'm being told. Obviously, that there's a limit, I guess, to how many times they can appear on insurance claim forms for different accidents within a period of time. But as Wayne said, it's not unusual for them for at least on more than one occasion.
And we're talking with just these 30 traffic accidents, $18 million in losses. That's a lot. Can maybe point out so you can
Yeah,
that?
I can try to work at some of that.
If you can get in front of the microphone to explain it.
What happens, we have, the PIP limits are $20,000, excuse me, $10,000. They have to exhaust the PIP limits, and then they turn it over to an attorney who will file suit against the insurance company, and then the claims, the numbers go up from there. I have 2 press releases that I brought with me, one from Miami involving 5 clinics, 2 chiropractors, and 3 organizers, and they stole $4 million in a year and a half, and they have relocated from prison in Los Angeles. I have another press release from Orlando, same scenario, 1 clinic, and they stole $3 million. So the numbers on this particular case will depend in the final analysis once the insurance companies send NICB the claims associated with each one of these visits, which we will do, and then we'll turn those claim numbers over to the state attorney's office in the dollar amount.
In a sentence, describe how bad the Tampa Bay area is for these staged auto accidents.
It's bad. I mean, I did my career here, and I was the head of the state fraud division, and I've been down in Miami for the last 2 or 3 years battling this problem. The numbers that Joe spoke of, 33 staged accidents, actually the 249% increase, that equals almost 600 accidents staged, reported to us, that we haven't even got to yet. So it's a tremendous problem. It's growing. It's lucrative. It's unscrupulous, sleazy individuals feeding off of that $10,000 PIP that's mandatory for everybody to have in the state of Florida. And also mandatory regardless of who's in the car. They get covered for $10,000. So if you have 5 people and 5 people, there goes $100,000. And if they're doing those 4 or 5 a week and 600 clinics or 500 clinics or 400 clinics, the numbers are mind-boggling. I estimate that it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars lost every year in Florida alone to PIP fraud. And there's others here in this room that can speak more to that than me, but it's a tremendous problem, cost-wise. Yes, ma'am?
These clinics were not specifically medical treatment places. They were actually places just to get the money and file paperwork, so to speak.
I mean, in our experience in these cases, some of these clinics do have medical treatment, x-ray machines, massage therapy, electronic stimulus machines, but in some cases they're not usable, they don't work, they're just for show, absolutely. And the insurance companies go in there and try to inspect them, and they're met with resistance. And so the quickest way to dismantle these organized rings that I found in Miami and South Florida, where they have a huge problem, is through the use of undercover operatives like they've used here in Hillsborough County. Instead of taking 3 years, it can be done in 6 or 7 months.